wives. 2.240. This verse was abrogated by another verse, so why should you write it or leave it in the Quran? Uthman said, O son of my brother, I will not shift anything of it from its place. Volume 6, Book 60, number 54, narrated by Mujahid regarding the verse. Those of you who die and leave wives behind, they, their wives, shall wait, as regards their marriage, for 4 months and 10 days. 2.234. The widow, according to this verse, was to spend this period of waiting with her husband's family. So Allah revealed, those of you who die and leave wives, that is widows, should bequeath for their wives a year's maintenance and residences without turning them out, but if they leave their residence, there is no blame on you for what they do with themselves, provided it is honorable. That is lawful marriage. 2.240. So Allah entitled the widow to be bequeathed extra maintenance for 7 months and 20 nights, and that is the completion of 1 year. If she wished she could stay in her husband's home, according to the will, and she could leave it if she wished, as Allah says, without turning them out, but if they leave the residence, there is no blame on you. So the iddah, that is 4 months and 10 days as it, is obligatory for her. Atta said, Ibn Abbas said, this verse, that is the statement of Allah, without turning them out, cancelled the obligation of staying for the waiting period in her dead husband's house, and she can complete this period wherever she likes. ATA's aid, if she wished, she could complete her iddah by staying in her dead husband's residence according to the will, or leave it according to Allah's statement. There is no blame on you for what they do with themselves. Atta added, later the regulations of inheritance came and abrogated the order of the dwelling of the widow in her dead husband's house, so she could complete the iddah wherever she likes, and it was no longer necessary to provide her with a residence. Ibn Abbas said, this verse abrogated her, that is widows, dwelling in her dead husband's house, and she could complete the iddah, that is 4 months and 10 days, wherever she liked, as Allah's statement says, without turning them out. Volume 6, Book 60, number 55, narrated by Muhammad bin Sirin. I sat in a gathering in which the chiefs of the Ansar were present, and Abdur Rahman bin Abu Layla was amongst them. I mentioned the narration of Abdullah bin Utbah regarding the question of Subaya bint al-Harith. Abdur Rahman said, but Abdullah's uncle used not to say so. I said, I am too brave if I tell a lie concerning a person who is now in Al-Kufa, and I raised my voice. Then I went out and met Malik bin Amir, or Malik bin Auf, and said, what was the verdict of Ibn Mas'ud about the pregnant widow whose husband had died? He replied, Ibn Mas'ud said, why do you impose on her the hard order and don't let her make use of the leave? The shorter surah of women, that is Surat at-Talaq, was revealed after the longer surah, that is Surat al-Baqarah. That is, her iddah is up till she delivers. Volume 6, Book 60, number 56, narrated by Ali, the Prophet said, as below Hadith 57. Volume 6, Book 60, number 57, narrated by Ali on the day of Al-Khandaq, the Battle of the Trench. The Prophet said they, that is pagans, prevented us from offering the middle, the best prayer till the sun had set. May Allah fill their graves, their houses, or their bodies with fire. Volume 6, Book 60, number 58, narrated by Zayd bin Arqam. We used to speak while in prayer. One of us used to speak to his brother, while in prayer, about his need, till the verse was revealed. Guard strictly the 5 obligatory prayers, especially the middle, the best, ASR prayer, and stand before Allah with obedience and not to speak to others during the prayers. Then we were ordered not to speak in the prayers. Volume 6, Book 60, number 59, narrated by Nafi. Whenever Abdullah bin Umar was asked about Salat al-Khawf, that is prayer of fear, he said, the Imam comes forward with a group of people and leads them in a 1 rak'ah prayer while another group from them who has not prayed yet, stay between the praying group and the enemy. When those who are with the Imam have finished their 1 rak'ah, they retreat and take the positions of those who have not prayed, but they will not finish their prayers with taslim. Those who have not prayed come forward to offer a rak'ah with the Imam, while the first group covers them from the enemy. Then the Imam, having offered 2 rak'at, finishes his prayer. Then each member of the 2 groups offer the 2nd rak'ah alone after the Imam has finished his prayer. Thus, each one of the 2 groups will have offered 2 rak'at, but if the fear is too great, they can pray standing on their feet or riding on their mounts, facing the Qibla or not. Nafi added, I do not think that Abdullah bin Umar narrated this except from Allah's Apostle. See Hadith number 451, Vol 5 to know exactly the fear prayer. Volume 6, Book 60, number 60, narrated by Ibn Az-Zubair. I said to Uthman, this verse which is in Surat al-Baqarah, those of you who die and leave widows behind, without turning them out, has been abrogated by another verse. Why then do you write it in the Quran? Uthman said, leave it where it is, O the son of my brother, for I will not shift anything of it, that is the Quran, from its original position. Volume 6, Book 60, number 61, narrated by Abu Hurairah. Allah's Apostle said, We have more right to be in doubt than Abraham when he said, My Lord, show me how you give life to the dead. He said, Do you not believe? He said, Yes, I believe, but to be stronger in faith. 2.260, Volume 6, Book 60, Number 62, narrated by Ubayd bin Umar. Once Umar bin al-Khattab said to the companions of the Prophet, What do you think about this verse? Does any of you wish that he should have a garden? They replied, Allah knows best. Umar became angry and said, Either say that you know or say that you do not know. On that, Ibn Abbas said, O chief of the believers, I have something in my mind to say about it. Umar said, O son of my brother, say, and do not underestimate yourself. Ibn Abbas said, This verse has been set up as an example for deeds. Umar said, What kind of deeds? Ibn Abbas said, For deeds. Umar said, This is an example for a rich man who does goods out of obedience of Allah, and then Allah sends him Satan, whereupon he commits sins till all his good deeds are lost. Volume 6, Book 60, Number 63, narrated by Abu Hurairah. The Prophet said, The poor person is not the one for whom a date or two or a morsel or two of food is sufficient, but the poor person is he who does not beg or ask the people for something or show his poverty at all. Recite if you wish, Allah's statement. They do not beg of people at all. 2.273. Volume 6, Book 60, Number 64, narrated by Aisha. When the verses of Surat al-Baqarah regarding usury, that is riba, were revealed, Allah's apostle recited them before the people, and then he prohibited the trade of alcoholic liquors. Volume 6, Book 60, Number 65, narrated by Aisha. When the last verses of Surat al-Baqarah were revealed, Allah's apostle went out and recited them in the mosque and prohibited the trade of alcoholic liquors. Volume 6, Book 60, Number 66, narrated by Aisha. When the last verses of Surat al-Baqarah were revealed, the Prophet read them in the mosque and prohibited the trade of alcoholic liquors. If the debtor is in difficulty, grant him time till it is easy for him to repay. 2.280, narrated Aisha. When the last verses of Surat al-Baqarah were revealed, Allah's apostle stood up and recited them before us and then prohibited the trade of alcoholic liquors. Volume 6, Book 60, Number 67, narrated by Ibn Abbas. The last verse, in the Quran, revealed to the Prophet was the verse dealing with usury, that is riba. Volume 6, Book 60, Number 68, narrated by Ibn Umar. This verse, whether you show what is in your minds or conceal it, 2.284, was abrogated. Volume 6, Book 60, Number 69, narrated by Marwan al-Askar, a man from the companions of Allah's apostle who I think was Ibn Umar, said, The verse, whether you show what is in your minds or conceal it, was abrogated by the verse following it. Volume 6, Book 60, Number 70, narrated by Aisha. Allah's apostle recited the verse, It is He who has sent down to you the book. In it are verses that are entirely clear, they are the foundation of the book, others not entirely clear. So as for those in whose hearts there is a deviation from the truth, follow thereof that is not entirely clear, seeking affliction and searching for its hidden meanings, but no one knows its hidden meanings but Allah. And those who are firmly grounded in knowledge say, We believe in it, that is in the Quran, the whole of it, that is its clear and unclear verses, are from our Lord, and none receive admonition except men of understanding. 3.7. Then Allah's apostle said, If you see those who follow thereof that is not entirely clear, then they are those whom Allah has named as having deviation from the truth, so beware of them. Volume 6, Book 60, Number 71, narrated by Sa'id bin al-Musayyab. Abu Hurairah said, The Prophet said, No child is born but that Satan touches it when it is born, whereupon it starts crying loudly because of being touched by Satan, except Mary and her son. Abu Hurairah then said, Recite it you wish, and I seek refuge with you, Allah, for her and her offspring from Satan the outcast. 3.36. Volume 6, Book 60, Number 72, narrated by Abu Wail. Abdullah bin Masud said, Allah's apostle said, Whoever takes an oath when asked to do so, in which he may deprive a Muslim of his property unlawfully, will meet Allah who will be angry with him. So Allah revealed in confirmation of this statement, Verily, those who purchase a small gain at the cost of Allah's covenant and oaths, they shall have no portion in the hereafter. 3.77. Then entered Al-Ash'ath bin Qais and said, What is Abu Abdurrahman narrating to you? We replied, So-and-so. Al-Ash'ath said, This verse was revealed in my connection. I had a well in the land of my cousin, and he denied my possessing it. On that the Prophet said to me, Either you bring forward a proof, or he, that is your cousin, takes an oath to confirm his claim. I said, I am sure he would take a false oath, O Allah's apostle. He said, If somebody takes an oath when asked to do so, through which he may deprive a Muslim of his property, unlawfully, and he is a liar in his oath, he will meet Allah who will be angry with him. Volume 6, Book 60, Number 73, narrated by Abdullah bin Abu Awfa. A man displayed some merchandise in the market and took an oath that he had been offered a certain price for it, while in fact he had not, in order to cheat a man from the Muslims. So then was revealed, verily, those who purchase a small gain at the cost of Allah's covenant and their oaths. 3.77. Volume 6, Book 60, Number 74, narrated by Ibn Abu Mulaika. Two women were stitching shoes in a house or a room. Then one of them came out with an awl driven into her hand, and she sued the other for it. The case was brought before Ibn Abbas. Ibn Abbas said, Allah's apostle said, if people were to be given what they claim, without proving their claim, the life and property of the nation would be lost. Will you remind her, that is the defendant, of Allah and recite before her, verily, those who purchase a small gain at the cost of Allah's covenant and their oaths. 3.77. So they reminded her and she confessed. Ibn Abbas then said, the Prophet said the oath is to be taken by the defendant, in the absence of any proof against him. Volume 6, Book 60, Number 75, narrated by Ibn Abbas Abu Sufyan. Narrated to me personally, saying, I set out during the truce that had been concluded between me and Allah's apostle. While I was in Sham, a letter sent by the Prophet was brought to Heraclius. Dihya al-Kalbi had brought and given it to the governor of Busra, and the latter forwarded it to Heraclius. Heraclius said, is there anyone from the people of this man who claims to be a prophet? The people replied, yes. So I along with some of Qurayshi men were called, and we entered upon Heraclius and we were seated in front of him. Then he said, who amongst you is the nearest relative to the man who claims to be a prophet? So they made me sit in front of him and made my companions sit behind me. Then he called upon his translator and said to him, tell them, that is Abu Sufyan's companions, that I am going to ask him, that is Abu Sufyan, regarding that man who claims to be a prophet. So if he tell me a lie they should contradict him, instantly. By Allah, had I not been afraid that my companions would consider me a liar, I would have told lies. Heraclius then said to his translator, ask him, what is his, that is the Prophet's, family status amongst you? I said, he belongs to a noble family amongst us. Heraclius said, was any of his ancestors a king? I said, no. He said, did you ever accuse him of telling lies before his saying what he has said? I said, no. He said, do the nobles follow him, or the poor people? I said, it is the poor who followed him. He said, is the number of his follower increasing or decreasing? I said, they are increasing. He said, does anyone renounce his religion, that is Islam, after embracing it, being displeased with it? I said, no. He said, did you fight with him? I replied, yes. He said, how was your fighting with him? I said, the fighting between us was undecided and victory was shared by him and us by turns. He inflicts casualties upon us and we inflict casualties upon him. He said, did he ever betray? I said, no, but now we are away from him in this truce and we do not know what he will do in it. Abu Sufyan added, by Allah, I was not able to insert in my speech a word against him except that. Heraclius said, did anybody else amongst you ever claim the same, that is Islam, before him? I said, no. Then Heraclius told his translator to tell me, that is Abu Sufyan, I asked you about his family status amongst you, and you told me that he comes from a noble family amongst you. Verily, all apostles come from the noblest family among their people. Then I asked you whether any of his ancestors was a king, and you denied that. Thereupon I thought that had one of his forefathers been a king, I would have said that he, that is Muhammad, was seeking to rule the kingdom of his forefathers. Then I asked you regarding his followers, whether they were the noble or the poor among the people, and you said that they were only the poor who follow him. In fact, such are the followers of the apostles. Then I asked you whether you have ever accused him of telling lies before saying what he said, and your reply was in the negative. Therefore I took for granted that a man who did not tell a lie about others could ever tell a lie about Allah. Then I asked you whether any one of his followers had renounced his religion, that is Islam, after embracing it, being displeased with it, and you denied that. And such is faith when it mixes with the cheerfulness of the hearts. Then I asked you whether his followers were increasing or decreasing. You claimed that they were increasing. That is the way of true faith till it is complete. Then I asked you whether you had ever fought with him, and you claimed that you had fought with him, and the battle between you and him was undecided, and the victory was shared by you and him in turns. He inflicted casual ties upon you, and you inflicted casualties upon them. Such is the case with the apostles. They are out to test, and the final victory is for them. Then I asked you whether he had ever betrayed. You claimed that he had never betrayed. I need apostles never betray. Then I asked you whether anyone had said this statement before him, and you denied that. Thereupon I thought if somebody had said that statement before him, then I would have said that he was but a man copying some sayings said before him. Abu Sufyan said, Heraclius then asked me, what does he order you to do? I said, he orders us to offer prayers and to pay zakat and to keep good relationship with the kith and kin and to be chaste. Then Heraclius said, if whatever you have said is true, he is really a prophet, and I knew that he, that is the prophet, was going to appear, but I never thought that he